Greetings, Region 3 stakeholders. Good evening. I'm Dr. Connie Stevenson, Director of School Choice and Student Assignment for the DeKalb County School District. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the Comprehensive Master Plan Town Hall meeting. We are happy that you have joined us for this very important event. Tonight, as we discuss the Comprehensive Master Plan and field questions, we hope that we will be able to provide you a greater sense of clarity and a renewed sense of partnership with the district. At this time, Superintendent Cheryl Watson-Harris will bring you greetings. Welcome.
Good evening, and thank you so much, Dr. Stevenson. As mentioned, I am Cheryl Watson-Harris, the very proud superintendent of the DeKalb County School District. And I'd like to just take a moment and thank all of you for joining us to discuss this very important topic, the Comprehensive Master Plan, or the CMP, and SPLOST 5. This evening, we aim to provide updates on exactly where we are in the process. We hope to bring clarity to the questions surrounding SPLOST 5 and to hear from you what's on your mind and also to address your questions. We are eager to ensure that our scholars are not only given a variety of high quality academic options and innovative options, but that they are also educated in facilities that allow them to thrive. We are ready to move forward. The fruits of these meetings will help chart a productive, efficient, and transparent course for the district for years to come. Thank you again for joining us this evening. Thank you for your feedback always and the opportunity to be in community with you. At this time, we will hear from our Region 3 Superintendent, Dr. Sean Tart. Dr. Tart.
Thank you, Ms. Watson-Harris, and welcome to the stakeholders, the students, staff, and parents of Region 3, where we learn, lead, and live. And we're excited about the feedback and the opportunity and the voice that you will share with us today. Again, Region 3 has about 11,000 students current to date, and we are 12 days into school. So again, your feedback is needed. And again, thank you to our staff, our students, and our scholars for a job well done these 12 days. And we look forward to a wonderful year. But of course, we need your feedback so that we can continue to become better and better. So with that being said, I will turn it back over to Dr. Stevenson and Ms. Harris at this time. Thank you. You're on mute, Dr. Stevenson.
You're muted, Dr. Stevenson.
I'm so sorry. Next, we will have a presentation led by Mr. Richard Boyd, Interim Chief Operating Officer, and Mr. Hans Williams, Director of Planning and eSPLOST Programming.
Thank you, Dr. Stevenson. Welcome to the district's Comprehensive Master Plan Regional Town Hall for Region 3. Tonight, we're going to focus on eSPLOST 5 and our facility improvements. There will also be an update on the CMP, but there won't be any options presented tonight. That will come at a later meeting. I do want to point out that we have 7 dates on here for this very same presentation. It'll be the same each date. The 17th today is, of course, Region 3. Tomorrow's Region 4. Region 5 will be on the 19th, then Region 2 on the 24th, Region 7, Region 6, and then ending with Region 1 on the 31st. The only adjustments that we'll make, like I said, this will be the same presentation. The only adjustment that we'll make is when we are talking about projects, we will focus on the projects for the region that we're presenting to. So tonight we'll focus on projects for Region 3, and then we'll kind of skim over the other regions as well. Next slide, please. The agenda tonight, first, we're going to talk about, or Mr. Williams is going to talk about the eSPLOST and facility improvements. We'll have an eSPLOST overview and then talk about current projects. Then there will be a CMP update. We'll talk about the status of the Comprehensive Master Plan and the timeline to completion. And then we'll end off with questions and answers to those questions. Mr. Williams?
All right, thank you very much, Richard. As we're looking at East Blast and facility improvements, it's important to have an understanding of what East Blast is and how it relates to facility improvements for our schools. East Blast stands for Education Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. That is a 1 penny sales tax on all goods and services sold in DeKalb County. The revenue from this sales tax is used by the school district to fund capital projects and purchases. For DeKalb, that means new facilities, classroom additions, major and minor renovations, and at nearly every school, as well as purchasing new technology and equipment. This penny sales tax generates about $500 million over 5 years. And while this is quite a lot, the estimated cost to address all facility needs across the district is over $2 billion. This means that East Blast is and will continue to be a necessary funding source for facility improvements in this district. The East Blast sales tax is approved by voters every 5 years, and so operates on a 5-year funding cycle. We are currently near the end of the 5th such cycle, East Blast 5, which began in July of 2017 and ends at the end of June of 2022. This coming November, DeKalb County voters will vote on renewing East Blast for the next funding cycle, East Blast 6. Over nearly 25 years, East Blast has been in place. Over the nearly 25 years that East Blast has been in place, it has paid for 36 new or replacement schools, 31 building additions or school conversions, over 80 elementary school gym additions, and major and minor renovations and improvements at every school or building in this district. To show the extent of the impact of East Blast, we have listed some of the major projects that East Blast has paid for in each region from East Blast 1 until now, East Blast 5. I'll skip over much of this in the interest of time and focusing primarily on Region 3, at least for tonight. However, I encourage anyone interested to go on the CMP webpage and download this presentation or attend other CMP regional town hall meetings we are having over the next week or so. The content of each presentation will be the same, but I will be highlighting the major projects in a different region for each night. So for tonight, let's go ahead and skip ahead to Region 3. So in Region 3, East Blast 1 paid for Redan Middle School, Winbrook Elementary School, new Lithonia High School, Rock Chapel Elementary School additions, new elementary school and 5 new elementary school gymnasiums. East Blast 2 paid for Arabia Mountain High School. East Blast 3 built Princeton Elementary School and Lithonia High School addition. East Blast 4 gave us Redan High School addition. Now, keep in mind, this is not a full listing. These are only some of the major projects, such as new schools and additions. As I said before, each school in the district has been improved as part of the East Blast program. Many of the schools, all of the schools in Region 3 and all of the schools across the district have seen renovations and improvements, at least to some degree, through the East Blast program. Now let's skip ahead to current projects. What are we working on now? While we're coming to the While we are coming to the end of sales tax collections for East Blast 5, we are very much still in the middle of construction. Let's once again skip ahead to Region 3. As I said before, if you are interested in the other regions, I encourage you to go onto the CMP webpage and download this presentation or attend other CMP regional town hall meetings as we are having over the next week or so, or do both. So skipping ahead here to Region 3, you can see we're working on Stoneview Elementary, HVAC components, roof replacement, site improvements. E.O. Miller is getting a full HVAC replacement, as is Rock Chapel Elementary. Redan Middle School, restroom and plumbing fixture replacement, addition of fire sprinklers and improved assisted toileting area. Winbrook Elementary is getting a full roof replacement. Stevenson Middle School will be getting a security vestibule. Redan High School, Stevenson High School, Arabia Mountain High School, Lithonia High School, and will all be getting turf installation and track installation on their football fields. And Redan High School will also be getting the baseball facility improvements. So improving the baseball diamond there. It's worth noting, you'll hear here a bit, all of our high schools and actually a couple of our middle schools are getting full turf and artificial turf and track replacements as part of East Blast 5. So speaking of these completed projects, I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead here to focus on, ooh, it looks like I've got the wrong one here. So I was going to show you pictures, I apologize, of some of the projects that we've completed. Unfortunately, it looks like I have the wrong version here. That's okay. The only thing missing is those beautiful pictures. I apologize. All the more reason to come on tomorrow night and see the correct one with these completed pictures. You can see it on the CMP webpage of some of the projects that we've completed. There's some lovely pictures of, I remember the Redan High School, New Indian Creek Elementary. So I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead here to the CMP. So let's see. And just as a note, you can tell I'm thrown off a bit by not having that. We're still, so these are just a smattering of the project. These are the projects. There are a few things not listed here, such as fence replacements and that sort of thing. But while for many of the projects in East Blast 5, some of them are completed, some are still in construction, and some of them are still being designed. But we expect to have all or most of East Blast 5 projects complete in the next 2, or in a few cases, 3 years. So now that we've talked about what we did in the past and what we're doing now, let's take a moment to focus on what we're doing next. Hopefully by now everyone is familiar with the CMP, or Comprehensive Master Plan. This plan will help guide the future of the district's facility improvements, including making recommendations on what will be included in the next round of East Blast funded facility improvements. At the moment, the CMP team is working on putting together options and recommendations that will be presented next month at another round of regional town hall meetings towards the end of September. Many of you may remember that we have been working on the CMP since the end of last year, really with town hall meetings starting in January of this year. And we had originally hoped to have options ready by the time school let out of this past school year. Unfortunately, this timeline slipped into the summer, and with preparation for school start and leadership change in operations, the CMP was more or less on hold until earlier this month. So while we've lost some time, the next round of town hall meetings in September will put us back on track for completing the CMP, as they will give you a chance to give us your invaluable feedback on the direction of the CMP, and which the CMP will use that feedback in drafting the Comprehensive Master Plan. So to give a more complete timeline, you can see in green the August and September regional town hall meetings. You can see in gray the development of CMP options for facilities, special programs, redistricting, and prioritization of facility improvements. These are happening now in preparation for those regional town hall meetings next month. In blue, you can see the final components of the CMP, the implementation plan, financial analysis, draft project list for East Blast 6, and final draft of the Comprehensive Master Plan. The CMP team is working hard to make up for lost time and complete the CMP this fall as originally planned. So with that, I'm sure there are several questions and comments that our community has, and we would like to spend the rest of this hour addressing them.
Yes. Thank you so much. Before you go on to questions, Hans, and I thank you so much for that presentation. You spoke briefly about some of the projects that are underway with SPLOS 5, and then you mentioned some additional projects that were not necessarily represented in the slide deck. Can you tell our stakeholders where they can find that very specific information, as well as timelines for completion, if they're interested in more granular information than what was presented this evening?
Sure. Everything that we presented this evening and all information that is publicly available is on the CMP website. If you go to the main DeKalb County School District website, down towards the bottom, there's a link to the Comprehensive Master Plan website.
Thank you.
There's also the monthly status report that AECom puts out. that has updates every month for every project, every one of the SPOS 5 projects. It'll talk about its where it is in the schedule and its budget also.
Thank you very much to both of you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Harris, and I serve as the Deputy Superintendent for Community Empowerment, Innovation, and Partnerships. And I'm super happy to be here with you this evening to walk through some of the questions that we have received and definitely hear from our team of how we are addressing the issues that are coming up from the community. The first question that we have here is, when will the recalibrated assessments be made available to the public?
We're hoping to get those available here in the next couple of weeks. That's specifically for the facility condition assessments. The educational suitability analysis, demographic assessment, all of the other assessments are available online. What has taken the longest, unfortunately, is those facility condition assessments. So we're working to get those finalized so that we can put up what we hope will be the final draft. It'll still be a draft until the CMP is fully complete here in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. And a clarifying question, you mentioned that the educational assessments are available online. Where online could someone find them?
So all of the assessment data that's available is on the CMP website. If you go to the, I'm trying to remember exactly where on the side, which tab it is. But I believe there's a tab for assessments and there's a data matrix there where you can click on, you can see the score for every school, and you can click on that to get the report for the facility condition assessment. There's still a draft available from, I believe it is April, although we'll be updating that here in the next few weeks. The educational suitability analysis, also available there is the demographic analysis for the district, and any other data that is being used as part of the CMP.
Thank you so much. And I would ask for the team that's on for the district, if you could put in the chat for the community members exactly where to find this online, that would be greatly appreciated. Who are the members of the CMP team?
Absolutely. The CMP team is district staff, myself, analysts that work in the planning department, other folks in operations. I mean, this includes regional maintenance supervisors. We work closely with Perkins and Will, who is a consultant that the district has brought on to bring the CMP planning process along and bring it to completion. We also work with district leadership and other folks within the district. It's really a conglomeration of, whoever the district needs to be looking at what it is that we're trying to do, make these decisions and bring the big project forward.
Yes. Mrs. Harris, if you don't mind me just jumping in there.
Yes,
Mr. Williams, thank you for that. But if there are community members who would like to know specifically who's on the CMP team with titles and which departments they represent, is that information that they could find on the CMP webpage as well?
It's not something that is currently there, but we'll make sure that it's there by tomorrow. We'll put it in the FAQ.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I just lost place of the questions that I was just reading. Hold on one second. When will the enrollment forecast for standalone school choice programs be posted?
The enrollment forecast is done for the entire district, including the standalone school choice programs. So that should be part of the demographic analysis that was done for the entire district. There is more of a focus on demographics and forecasting for neighborhood schools, as those are the ones where we see the most change over time. But all of the school choice programs, whether they're in a neighborhood school or standalone, were included in that.
Thank you so much. There seems to be a concern that the ESAs have not been recalibrated and that they are not accurate.
The ESAs have been recalibrated at least once, but we are absolutely willing to go back and take a look at that. There's a reason why we keep all of the assessment data technically in draft form until the CMP is complete. So we will go back out to the community however we can to get a little bit more feedback on what it is that they're seeing about the ESAs that needs to be recalibrated to make sure that that happens.
Thank you so much. And how could a community member be able to provide input into the CMP process moving forward?
Sure. We have a survey on the CMP webpage, and on top of that, we have a feedback page on the CMP webpage where you can put in your name and give any sort of feedback that you need.
Got it. There's a concern that's been listed from the community that Arabia Mountain, DESA, DSA forecasts are not posted, and theme schools forecasts are not posted as well. Is that something that we'll look into?
I will look into that. As I said, all schools, including standalone schools, should be included in the forecast.
Thank
So
you.
if for whatever reason that isn't clear, or that's the way it's presented doesn't show that, we'll go back and we'll make sure that that's clear, that all of our schools are part of that forecast.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. What about Panola Way Elementary School? Will there be any improvements made to Panola Way?
Let me double check here.
Hans, I looked at, I did not see a SPLOST 5 project. There was one for SPLOST 4, but I did not see a SPLOST 5 project specifically for Panola Way.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with what you found, Richard. That there isn't currently a SPLOST project for Panola Way, but at the same time, that just means that it's that much more likely to be included in the next SPLOST.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Harris, do you mind if I ask another question here?
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
one, I just want to make sure that your response landed well, that if they aren't currently scheduled for a project, those would be projects that we're looking for. With the
Mr.
next-
Butler, it's so great that we have staff, that we have team members that are also responding to comments in the chat.
Mhm.
So Mr. Butler did say that Panola Way is included in ADA restroom upgrades.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Yes,
Okay,
thank
yes,
you.
Superintendent.
I just saw that, and it also received a new playground at the beginning of SPLOST 5.
Great. My question is one that's in the chat, and I think we responded to it, but I want to make sure that we're a little clearer in our response. Mr. Williams, you mentioned that the ESAs were updated once. There is a comment, I think in that question, a comment in the chat that they have not been updated since April. Is that your understanding that the ones that are posted now are pre-April?
Yeah. The ones that are posted now should be from April. That was when they were the original post of the ESAs were in March, and we got a lot of feedback from that, a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. And so we asked the assessors to go back, take a look at that, and retool the way that they had scored the ESAs. They came back with much better documentation, much better scores for April. So no, the ESAs haven't been updated since April. But again, if there's any questions, any concerns about those, we're very willing to go back and take a look at those again.
Thank you.
I do have a question here. When will E.L. Miller have the HVAC upgrade added to the list?
So the HVAC upgrade, it's a full replacement of the HVAC system at E.L. Miller, is on the list. Right now, we're actually working to, that's in design. Richard, I think you can speak a bit more about exactly where that project is. I think that we're also making sure that that's, yeah, Richard, can you go ahead and speak to exactly where that project is? I do know it's already on the list. It is a funded East Blast project that's in design currently.
It is in design. We're supposed to start GC procurement in October. So in that's what, about 8 weeks away. In October, we'll start procurement for the general contractor. So we're wrapping up design on that. And then we're expecting to have board approval for that project, or present to the board in January of 2022.
For the general contractor.
Yes, for the general contractor.
And that means that more than likely work on that project would begin this coming summer.
Yes. The current plan is it would begin this summer and then would extend into the following summer. So the amount of renovation is so extensive, it will take 2 summers to get that work done.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Will the district consider moving magnet programs such as Southwest DeKalb High School or Arabia Mountain to a more central location within the district in order to capture more students?
At the moment, as part of options developments, all options are on the table. But that being said, that doesn't mean everything is going to be make its way to the September presentation. So it's difficult to answer that right now. It's early enough that I can say that we're still considering many different options. Some of them maybe even more extreme than that. But which of them make it through past the CMP team and past the rest of district leadership and are presented in September, we'll have to wait and see.
Thank you. I wonder if this is board member Deidre Pierce. Are you able to provide a status report on the leaking roof issue at Oakview Elementary School and the drain standing water issue by the gym at Snapfinger Elementary School?
I don't have that right now, but we will. I'll check with Mr. Moncrief tomorrow and find out where we are on that and be able to send a reply.
Thank you. So how will the CMP handle redistricting for overcrowding for overcrowded and undercrowded schools?
Yes, so redistricting, the way that I tend to think about it is there's 3 different levels of redistricting that the CMP is going to touch on. One of them is the more immediate redistricting. We have schools that have recently opened where redistricting should at least be looked at. For example, Smoke Rise Elementary is a much smaller school that has recently been rebuilt. It's opened this year. Yay. That's a beautiful school. But that facility is much, much larger than the original Smoke Rise. And so typically we would have looked at redistricting for that area this past fall, for when the school opened. However, because of the CMP and to make sure that any redistricting was in line with all of the other facility plans of the district, that was put off. So the first level would be the immediate redistrictings for fall of 2022. So the CMP will have some recommendations on what those might look like. Then the second level would be what I consider to be medium-term redistrictings. These are for the next 2 to 5 years, something that would be concurrent with building a new facility, making it an addition, or correcting any of the major redistrictings that we're looking at to correct, excuse me, current imbalances in the district. You can hear my daughter there. So the more medium term to go along with, you could think of it as the closeout of SPLOS 5 and into SPLOS 6. And then the third level would be the long term, between 5 to 10 years, something that, once the CMP, the full build out, the full vision of the CMP takes effect, those will be the most nebulous. The first level for next year, you might see much more crisp, clear, definite lines. For the second level, for the 2 to 5 years, will be more, less definite, because we don't do redistrictings too far in advance. There's always too many changes, too many possibilities. And so you'll see areas that the CMP may recommend for redistricting, but the actual recommendations to the board won't happen until the fall prior to those redistrictings, or fall or spring prior to those redistrictings taking effect. And then for the 10-year, for that third level, the bigger picture, those, as I often call them, blobs, but that'll just be talking about, if in 6 years we expect a brand new school or some big change, it'll just say this whole area may need to be redistricted to accommodate that. So at the moment, that's how we're looking at redistricting. 1 year, 2 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years.
Thank you so much. I have a two-part question as it relates to parking. Who addresses parking lot conditions at schools such as potholes? Rock Chapel Elementary School is inadequate with parking. How would that be addressed?
I'm sorry,
So-
which school was that again?
Rock Chapel?
Rock Chapel. Okay, that's, let me check and see.
I can say that
Go ahead.
for immediate concerns, like if there's a giant pothole at a school, if there's something that is a danger to traffic, the vehicles that are there, that's something that we can address through our maintenance department, that we don't need to wait on a big capital improvement project to fix an issue, a spot issue like that. However, if it's we have many schools that have issues with parking lots where the pavement hasn't really been touched in decades, many decades. And so currently, actually, even as a part of SPOS 5, there's repavings at several schools. And I would not be surprised if that's a part of future SPOS as well, is addressing those paving concerns at a lot of our schools.
Yeah, that I checked, and Rock Chapel is not part of one of the current projects. There is a major building system replacement project there, but that's something we can look at, and I can have our maintenance department look also if there are large potholes there, we can have those addressed.
Thank you so much. We have a question around roofing issues. And we know that there are a lot of roofing issues. However, in Region 3, there are 3 schools that community members have expressed concern with: Stevenson, Winbrook, and Redan. Are there any plans to provide new roofs to those schools?
I know Winbrook especially does have a SPOS 5 roofing project that I would have to take a look at the schedule of when that's supposed to begin, but it has a funded roof project. So sometime in the next 2 years, Winbrook should be receiving a new roof.
Thank you. Has the CMP team considered putting early learning centers in elementary schools that have extra capacity?
Yes, early learning centers has been a priority of the district for a long time, and with the success of the early learning center that we currently have, looking at that, in expanding what we currently have, some sort of either regional model or some sort of expansion of the early learning centers has absolutely been being looked at as part of the CMP.
Thank you. This one's a long one. I'm going to read it through. The following has been on the CMP FAQ page since forever. When will the following happen? After assessments and interviews with stakeholders are completed, summary reports and meeting notes will be sent to the campus to verify content. Region or cluster groups will review the FCA EAA scorecards and provide comments. Scorecards by campus will be made available on the website with contact information for additional feedback.
So my understanding is that the ESAs, the FCAs, all of the assessment data that at each school has been given to the principal and to the is it PTAs, the PACs of each school. So I would get in touch with your principal, get in touch with your PAC. We are still open to that. I know that there's already been at least one PAC, we have several of them actually, that have reached out, and that we'll be talking to over the next several weeks to make sure that we're on the same page, that they understand what the data that is being presented, and that we understand their concerns about those reports, and that any feedback gets incorporated.
Okay. There is a concern that PACs haven't received responses to the feedback provided since April. Could you speak more to that?
So I know a part of that is the slowdown and stoppage of this work on the CMP kind of over the summer. So my understanding is that there was still communication going on through April. It was really more into May that we began to slow down. But as I said, any sort of need for additional communication, we're very much open for that right now. Here as school has begun, we've really ramped back up the CMP and are really trying to sprint towards the finish line. But a big part of the CMP isn't just here's what we're going to do, but making sure that the public understands and is that our stakeholders, that our schools are on board with what the CMP is and the vision of the CMP. So we'll make an effort to reach back out to any of the PACs that, as I said, there's already a few that have reached out to me, and we're going to make an effort to reach back out for any additional comments to make sure that everybody feels heard and everybody is able to contribute, even here towards the end of this process.
Thank you so much. Lithonia Middle School is in need of an awning for when buses arrive so the students don't get wet. When is the timeline for this standing request?
That's something that we're currently reviewing. We've had a contractor look at that and provide us multiple estimates for the length of that canopy. That is a project that we're going to have to look at and determine just how much we can fund of that now, if possible, or if necessary, that might have to be a SPLOST 6 project, just depending on the cost of that.
Thank you. There are specific questions that are being raised about schools that are not in Region 3. I'm going to read this one, a couple of them out, if that's okay, Hans and Richard. When are severely overcrowded schools being redistricted? Why am I having such a hard time with redistricting today? Sequoia, Dunwoody High, Peachtree Middle. These schools have been waiting for years. I'm surprised that it wasn't considered as part of a COVID mitigation strategy to redistrict these schools.
So the CMP will absolutely be addressing the overcrowding, especially in Region 1. Overcrowding in Region 1 was actually a big component of the early SPLOST 5 program, and was due to many different concerns, specifically budgeting concerns with major projects in SPLOST 5. A lot of big projects like addition to Dunwoody High School, additions to Lakeside, a new Cross Keys High School, were deferred by the board in early 2020. Just before COVID hit. And so the part of that deferment to SPLOST 6 was an understanding that this CMP, the comprehensive master plan, would very much target and look at overcrowding in the district, and especially in areas like Region 1, where it has been such a chronic issue. So absolutely, the redistricting recommendations coming out of the CMP and the facility recommendations for where is additional capacity needed are absolutely going to be looking at the chronic overcrowding in Region 1 schools.
Thank you so much. I just lost this question. Here we go. Why are Henderson Mill, Tony, and Livesey, I'm not certain I said that correctly, not included in the SPLOST 5 projects?
So there was an unfortunate, I've been calling it a misunderstanding, but it's really a mislabel, it's a mistake on the monthly status report that's put out for SPLOST, all of our SPLOST projects, where those schools are listed with a status of it is listed as deferred. But it's unfortunate because that's not the case. The board did not approve deferring those projects to SPLOST 6. They are very much still on the schedule to be completed. Part of the, when SPLOST 5 was a major program overhaul in early 2020, again, because of those budgeting issues I mentioned, where a lot of the major building of a new school or addition projects were deferred, and it reset a lot of the schedule. New projects were added. Part of that resetting of the schedule was some of the projects, those three in particular, were moved towards the end of the schedule. And now we're approaching the end of the schedule. So actually those projects are set to potentially begin here in within the next year, begin with design. But they were moved towards the end of the schedule to see what would become of these schools in the CMP. I think those three in particular, but there may have been a few others as well. I think that there may have been some sort of miscommunication where, unfortunately, as I said, in the monthly status report, those projects were listed at, their status was listed as deferred. However, there are still estimated completion dates for those projects towards the end of the schedule. They are not deferred. They are still SPOST 5 projects, and they are on the schedule to be completed.
Thank you. What are the priorities of the CMP?
The CMP is meant to provide a vision, a framework for the district, particularly as it relates to our facilities for the next 10 years. Where do we need new facilities? Where do we need new additions? Well, how do we need to change the way that we use facilities, whether it be through redistricting, moving programs if necessary, setting up new programs if necessary, to achieve what the district's vision for these next 10 years.
Yeah, I would add to that, Mr. Williams. Thank you so much for specifying. I can't speak tonight either, Ms. Harris, the whole time. Thank you for giving the message in terms of what this means for the facilities. But for us, we're also looking at the CMP as a realization of where we want to go as a district. So what are the innovative programs that our families are looking for in the school district? Where we have underutilized buildings, what are the programs that families would be interested in that would bring them to Regents or even back to DeKalb County School District if they had not, if their children do not currently attend school there. So yes, it's primarily focused a lot of our conversations on the facilities and making sure that they are safe and conducive to learning, but also what do we want our schools to be in terms of offerings, whether that be where we want to go with our magnet programs, if we want to invest in early childhood. And then again, one size doesn't fit all. So certain communities are interested in certain options and others may want something else for their children. But we want to make sure that we have a robust portfolio of options that meet the need and the desire from our larger stakeholder group. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. When will Lithonia Middle School receive a new track and tennis court? They are in extremely bad condition.
So one of the things that is, go ahead, Richard.
Well, yes, I was going to say that was also one thing that we looked at when we looked at the canopy. They are in really bad conditions, along with the tennis court also. We don't currently have a plan to redo middle school as a whole, middle school turf and tracks, but that is something that we need to look into for not only that school, but other middle schools as well. But yes, that one is in pretty rough condition.
Yeah, what I was going to say is one of the things that's come out of the replacement of all of the turf and tracks at all of our high schools is exactly that, the condition of our middle schools, that those athletic facilities also need some TLC. And so that's something that we're looking at as part of the priority list for SPLOST 6.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going back again just to make sure that we are addressing questions that are in the chat. There is a question of if you could provide an email or a contact number so that the community can provide additional feedback. And so Mr. Butler or Mr. Sannon, if you can drop that information in the chat, that would be great. Additionally, we are going to upload the presentation with some of the photos that Mr. Williams had discussed earlier around completed projects.
There we go. And I apologize for that. I just seemed to have grabbed the version of this presentation exactly the same, just without those photos. So we're having somebody put that up right now. Thank you for.
While you're looking for that information, I think that there's a great opportunity here to provide a little clarity, Mr. Boyd or Mr. Williams. So there is some conversation in the chat around Lithonia Middle School showing as a 5 out of 5 for its track and for its tennis. And so the question is, how could it be in disrepair? And if 5 of 5 is considered top, why would it need to be repaired? How is that assessment so far off?
One of the things, and we will absolutely go back and take a look at it to make sure that it matches with the criteria that we put together. One thing that has been difficult is this, because we've separated the educational suitability of a facility and the condition of a facility, there's sometimes confusion between whether something exists for education and whether that thing is in good condition. Now, that being said, we want to make sure that these reports provide clarity and help us in prioritizing what needs to happen. So yes, we'll absolutely go back and take a look at that for Lithonia Middle School and probably for all of our athletic facilities, just to make sure that those are being correctly addressed in the educational suitability analysis.
Could you explain the difference between general maintenance and SPLOS projects?
Sure. Did you want to answer this, Richard, or are you okay with me answering?
Go ahead and I can fill in.
Okay. So general maintenance is I tend to look at the maintaining our facilities on a spectrum. That over on one side, you've got essentially custodial duties, cleaning up spills, things that custodians can take care of. Bleeding in from that, it bleeds into maintenance, making sure that filters are changed, making sure that and some of those things are even things that custodians can do still, going all the way over to fixing, replacing a toilet that gets broken, or real true maintenance items. Once you get into SPLOST funds, that's moving much more towards facility improvements, big capital purchases where we're replacing all of the plumbing in a school, or we're replacing all of the toilets, we're replacing an entire roof, something along those lines. So can be a little bit of, not blurring isn't the correct word, but there's a bit of a spectrum there. It is not uncommon if we have a chiller at a school that breaks, which means the HVAC system just isn't working right now. We're going to replace that immediately. We're not going to wait for a SPLOST 5 project to come in SPLOST project to come in a few years to replace that. At the same time, if it is an older HVAC system where most of the components are okay, but there is some replacements like a chiller or a boiler and a few other things that need to be replaced to renovate and resuscitate that system and bring it back up to as close to new as possible, then SPLOST or capital improvements could pay for that. So anything to add with that, Richard? No,
I was going to say that's right. The maintenance is really more of a repair. So like in Hans's example, if a chiller goes down, we'll have our maintenance crew go out and look at it and assess it and do a repair there, replace the bearings or something else in it. Our SPLOST projects, as Hans was describing, if we do a SPLOST maintenance project, it's because we've looked at that system and we know that the chiller is 20 or 25 years old and we've been having trouble with it, and we know the other components, the boiler and other components, are at their end of life. Then we'll do a SPLOST project that will go in and replace all of those systems so that we have a new HVAC or a new electrical project or system.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask this one last question, and then I know that I kind of saw the pictures being previewed, but allow an opportunity to talk those more through, and then our superintendent will provide closing remarks. So the last question that I'll ask, locker rooms have not been assessed. Is there a plan to include locker rooms in the FCAs or ESAs?
That isn't something that I've looked at, but again, when we go back and take a look at our athletic facilities, I'll make sure that we take a look at locker rooms as well, because that absolutely is an important component to our schools.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. And please share the photos.
There we go. Thank you very much, Paul, who's helping out on the back end, making sure that we don't miss anything here. So you can see here, these are the projects that we have already completed. So there's projects that we're actually just about to complete, but these are the ones that we've completed here. Let's see, we have replaced 19 elementary school playgrounds. I missed the 3 prototype elementary schools, John Lewis Elementary, Dorville United Elementary, and Indian Creek Elementary. We've replaced 19 elementary school playgrounds, and have so far completed turf and track replacements at 6 of our high schools, and with the rest being completed in the coming months. We've completed plumbing fixture replacements at Bowie Theme School and Oakview Elementary, and have completed perimeter fencing projects at the 24 schools in groups A and B. And there's 12 more schools in groups that should be wrapping up soon for fencing projects. Go ahead to the next one, Paul. So you can see here some beautiful pictures from Cedar Grove High School, the new football fields they have there at Cedar Grove and Redan, football and track. These are just a few. Go ahead. Southwest DeKalb. Arabia Mountain. I had to remind myself, especially with Arabia Mountain, that this isn't a render. This isn't a computer generated image. This is actually what the awesome new track and field looked like. Go ahead. So this is Indian Creek Elementary. This is the same prototype that we've used for actually all of the new schools through SPLOST 4 and 5, but John Lewis Elementary, Dorville United look just like this. Indian Creek is a tad bit bigger, but it's the same design. Beautiful new schools. Go ahead. You can see here the exterior, and I just love that foyer. It looks beautiful. And this is opening this school year. These are already open. All right, and then last but not least at all is the new touchless plumbing fixtures at Oakview Elementary and Bowie Elementary. And while they're not as pretty as the previous improvements that we were looking at, I can assure you that these new fixtures are having a real positive impact on these schools. So these, as I said before, these are just the beginning of what we're already working on. And as you saw earlier when I was giving the presentation, we're still working on dozens of projects that will improve schools across the districts. Some are nearing completion, some are still in construction, and some are still being designed. But we expect most or all of our SPLOST 5 projects to be complete in the next 2, with a few of them being 3 years.
Thank you so much, Hans. And we welcome your co-presenter.
Thank you.
Superintendent.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harris, and thank you, Mr. Williams and Mr. Boyd, for serving on the panel this evening. Thank you again to Dr. Sean Tart, our regional superintendent, and Dr. Connie Stevenson for also opening up this first meeting or town hall. What I would like to just do in conclusion is first thank everyone again for attending. Thank you for your questions. I know that this is our first of this series, and we'll just get stronger and better as a result of the questions that you've asked this evening. We hope to compile all the questions and provide written responses that will go on our CMP webpage. We want to make sure that we continue to be transparent and have open communication regarding where we are. Again, just to lift up what Mr. Williams said earlier during the meeting, we did have a delay, but we are working very hard to get back on track. We want to ensure everyone that continuing to engage with all of our stakeholders is a priority for us. And we'll continue to go back and see where there have been gaps with PACs or specific communities so that we can make sure that everyone has a voice in where we're going with the vision for our CMP. So again, we ask for your continued partnership. We know that some of you will probably be joining future or additional meetings that we'll be having in the coming weeks, and we welcome you. We welcome your feedback, and please do hold us accountable and continue to ask those great questions and offer that incredible feedback because it'll only make us stronger in terms of what we want to accomplish for our scholars and our families. So thank you again. We hope that everyone has a safe evening, and hopefully we'll see you at the next town hall. And again, we just want to say thank you to board member Deirdre Pierce for joining us this evening as well. Thank you.